Hello, everybody. This is Massa Washington, and welcome to the Massa Washington Show. Today is the third episode of our show, and of course, as always, I am glad to be back here with you. Thank you so much for watching. I have been receiving a lot of comments and suggestions on how we can improve and what are some of the content that you might want me to feature on the show as we move on. I'm looking at a lot of them and I'm considering some of them. So thank you so much. And here we go. So Liberia is still in elections mode. We just ended with the first round of presidential and legislative elections. We are now waiting for the runoff elections, which is scheduled for November 14. That's just I think 2 weeks away. But in the meantime, the two candidates, competitors, that is incumbent President George Weah and former Vice President Ambassador Joseph Boyka, are, of course, campaigning very rigorously with other candidates who didn't make it. Everybody is looking for votes. And the candidates have begun to receive or get endorsements from the other counterparts who did not make it to this stage of the elections. Already, Ambassador Boyka has received uh, an endorsement from LPP, uh, headed by its standard bearer, Mr. Councillor Tiago Segonglu. Ambassador Weah has also, President Weah rather, has also received endorsement from several quarters, including from former Senate Pro Tem of the Liberian Senate, Wesonga Finley. But Weah has received a big endorsement from ARCO, whose standard bearer is Mr. Lucini Kamara. ARCO is one of those parties that has now claimed the attention of Liberians in the world that's watching us. Mr. Lucini Kamara came in third place here. He came in fourth place with 35,988 votes. And he represents a very important constituent, which is the predominantly Mandingos and also Muslim. So he is very key. His endorsement is very key for President Weah. So we will continue to monitor and follow, who's giving endorsement as time goes on. Of course, we have other candidates who didn't make it. Of course, Mr. Appleton. Everybody is referring to him as the miracle guy. Uh, he was not really he was not well known until these elections, and we have strong candidates, Mr. Alexander Cummings of the CPB ANC, Alan Brown, and others. So the candidates will need the two competitors now, President George Weah and former Vice President Joseph Boyka. They will need rather all the support from everybody. They will need support from everybody, but getting key endorsements from key parties, that is those parties that have, the numbers like Lucinda Kamara's party, ALCOP, and also Mr. Edward Appleton's party, the GDM. Those are will be key endorsements because of their numbers. On Friday, over the weekend rather, Mr. Alexander Cummings of the ANC, the CPP, ANC/CPP, made a very interesting statement. He actually read a statement. He called a press conference, and Mr. Cummings he's laid out several preconditions for his support to ending of the presidential candidates. That is President George Weah or Joseph Boyka. Center issue amongst those issues that Mr. Cummings is concerned about and that he's pushing is the implementation of the recommendations of the TRC, especially he was specific to say that he would like to see the War Crimes Court established for Liberia. And Mr. Cummings is saying he has not endorsed anybody yet. He is saying that precondition for his endorsement of any of the candidates will be they must make a commitment to implement the recommendations of the TRC and agree to bring the War Crimes Court for Liberia. We would like to thank Mr. Alexander Cummings. Thank you so much. And Councillor Tiawon Gonglo also, he's already endorsed Ambassador Joseph Boyka, but he made it clear that he would like to see the TRC recommendations implemented, and he will also like to see the War Crimes Court established for Liberia. It has been 15 years since the TRC completed its work and presented its final support to the Republic of Liberia through the president office at the time. Mrs. Ellen Johnson Sirleaf was president at the time. The TRC completed its work and presented its final report on June 30th, 2009. June 30th, 2023 this year made it actually 15 years since the commission presented its final report. So after all this time, there has been nothing done to implement the recommendations, and a lot of people are calling for the implementation of the commission's work, especially for War Crimes Court. So, call from Councillor Gonglo and also Mr. Cummings that the TRC recommendations must be implemented, and there must be War Crimes Court for Liberia is welcome. We appreciate that even though they didn't make it in the runoff, but they are concerned, they are patriotic enough, and they want to see the best for Liberia. So thank you, Mr. Cummings, and thank you, Councillor Gonglo. The next topic I would like to look at here is this issue of witches in Liberia. We saw a video circulating the internet this weekend where an elderly lady, small in stature, was nearly marked by a group of people who were calling her a witch. And according to, you can hear some of the people speaking in the background on the video. They say they saw her flying in the sky and she fell down. And this was allegedly captured, but we haven't really seen the video with her flying. I mean, that's what it's saying. But it's like, it's really serious because we know that many people in Liberia have been accused of being witches before in the past, including even children. Children have been beaten, they've been tortured, the human rights have been violated because people have alleged that they are witches. As a matter of fact, just 2 years ago, it was this American writer by the name of Tom Rowley, who's writing for the uh, the Telegraph in the United Kingdom, the Daily Telegraph in the United Kingdom. So he went to Liberia, he and a colleague, and they did research on the issue of witches in Liberia. But they specifically, they went to a church and they tracked the church and the church activities. So this church is called Holy Temple of Christ Church, and every once a month on Wednesday, it's just only on Wednesday once a month, you will have parents or other people in the community bringing children who are accused of being witches. And these children, they are bringing them to this church for deliverance. And I'm saying this in quotation actually. So they're bringing these children to the church for deliverance. They say these children are witches. And some of the parents are also involved in bringing their children to the church for deliverance. When the children get to this church, they go through the ritual of the spiritual cleansing and what have you, and it's left a lot of them traumatized. One kid spoke out to this journalist who was doing the story, how it left him terrified, how even after he went through that ritual of cleansing the demons from him in the church, he did not go home. He was sleeping, at mechanic shops, sleeping on the streets, sleeping at market stalls because it affected his mental health. And there's also another story of a young girl, a minor, whose mother brought her to the same church for alleged deliverance because, according to the mother, this child has been a witch since she was 5 years old. And the child is now, I think, 11. So she also goes to this church. And the mother is accusing the 11-year-old child of being the cause of her getting a divorce. Her husband divorced her, her husband left her, and she said it is because her child is a witch, and the child, she's making the black magic voodoo, and she's engaging in demonic activities. So that is why the mother has bad luck. Nothing good happens for her. That is why um, her husband left her. She got divorced. But the mother even goes further to say that her mother was the one who initiated her child into this demonic dark world. And she said the child told her that her mother, the woman's mother, and the child's grandmother, in the demonic dark world, they were drinking blood together and other ingesting other taboo objects. This is not unique. We've heard these stories, a lot of places in Liberia, especially up in the countryside, in the counties. So you can see this woman on the video here. She was without any bottom clothing. She just had on this purple shirt or dress. So a lady here is trying to wrap the lapel around her to help to protect her, to cover her up. And the guy you see holding her by her arm is the police. She was lucky the police came immediately, and the police was able to ward off the mob, the crowd from her. So the police is taking her to safety to the police station, and this lady is putting clothes on her. Now, when you look at this elderly person, she's small in stature. She has a hunchback. So you can see that she has some medical issues. Who knows? She probably has some behavioral health or mental health issues as well. So to see someone who looks physically fragile at the mercy of a mob of her fellow citizens who were ready to beat her up, torture her, God forbid, even possibly kill her because she's accused of being a witch. I mean, somebody is actually saying that they saw her fall from the sky, she and another person, but we haven't seen the second person who is supposed to be the second witch. People are actually saying this. And according to them, when she fell from the sky, when they apprehended her, she confessed and said that spiritually, the witched craft, airplane that is, that she and other witches were riding in the sky, the wished craft crashed. It's like an airplane. So the airplane crashed. This is why she fell to the ground. They are saying that she said it, but we haven't heard her say anything. This poor woman has not said anything since they got her. In fact, she looks distressed. Um, Liberians have to be careful and they have to pay attention how they continue this thing of witches. In the first place, you ask yourself, why is it all the witches most of the time, the overwhelming, of the time, why is it they're always women, they're always poor women who are poor, they live in the impoverished areas, they are uneducated, and they are vulnerable. Why are the witches always these category of people who can really defend themselves, who will be intimidated by a large crowd that's trying to beat on her and call her a witch? Why are the witches always the poor people? Why are they always, women, single women, or widows, women whose husbands have died? Why are the witches are always these people? Is it because they are the most vulnerable in the society, the poor? They don't have any voice. They don't have people to advocate for them, so they're easy target. Is it? Are they easy targets so people can bully them and violate their human rights? And then also the children. The children are always accused of being witches. So someone would take a 5-year-old child and put her outside of the house in the night and say she cannot come in to sleep. She will sleep outside because she's a witch. Liberians need to be very careful doing this because you are violating the human rights of other people. You are abusing children. It's called child abuse. You are abusing children. You are abusing the elderly. You're torturing them. You need to know that torture is a serious crime in international human rights and justice. It's a serious crime, and there's no statute of limitation for torture. So if you're going to be um, bullying these vulnerable people and torturing them in the process, because when I was researching this, I came upon a story of a young boy who is now 11 years old. He said they accused him of being a witch, and they actually, to prove that he was not a witch, they actually performed a sort of a quasar um, sassy wood on him. So normally the sassy wood would be, they put they had cutlass or hot iron in the thing and put it on people leg. But with the kid, they made the hot fire, boiling water, whatsoever, and was taking his hand. It was his hands that they were trying to put in it. So if he's not a witch, he was supposed to agree to have his hand put in this hot, burning, hot, boiling water. And the kid refused. He refused, and he was like, fighting back, asking people to leave him. And the more he did that, the more they were beating on him because now just having the spunk to even try to protect himself, it was unprecedented for them, and they started beating him up. We have to be careful as a people. This is wrong. You continue this, you're going to get in trouble. You most likely will end up in jail because you cannot prove that someone is a witch. in the first place, who are you to go around looking for a witch or witches? No, you're not Sherlock Holmes. So Liberians need to be very careful how you violate the rights of other Liberians or other people who are living in Liberia. They don't only have to be Liberians. Have to be very careful how that happens. I will also I would also like to speak on this issue of um, confidentiality. The reason is because I've seen that it's becoming more and more. It's becoming more and more prolific. Liberians, we are human beings. We will not always agree. We will agree sometimes. Sometimes we will not agree. We will fall out sometimes. Sometimes you will fall out with people who are close to you or were close to you, people who you love. And sometimes, people are disloyal. Sometimes people have no loyalty to people. People do not always value the relationships they have. So they take people for granted. They backstab people. They do things that will shock you and surprise you. But we have to learn to process these situations, in appropriate manners, so that we don't cause more or harm than good. People need to learn to respect confidentiality. If you and people were friends, or maybe your family members, but maybe you fell out, whatever information or exchange of communication that happened between you and that other person, it is not for the public. You must respect you must respect the other person's right to their privacy. You must respect their confidentiality. So, for example, if you and me were friends, Massa Washington, and we felt are we no longer friends, I would never, I would never take your texts, messages, or your emails and pass it on to other people because I want to ridicule you or I want to destroy you. It's wrong. Only really bad people do that. When you and people have a falling out, just stick to the issue of the falling out. Stop sending, forwarding the text messages. Stop disclosing private conversations that they had with you in confidence. Because when you do that, you think you're trying to destroy that person. Maybe momentarily you may succeed in trying to ridicule that person, but what you do is you actually destroy yourself because now people know that you can be trusted. People know that you're an evil person. People know they can trust you. So people are not going to have certain kinds of conversations around you. They're not going to trust you with any information. And sooner or later, you're going to start losing all your decent friends because people don't want to be in a company all the time of people who they can trust. Confidentiality is very important. I mean, I see on the internet everywhere people just throwing out people private information is wrong. We need to stop that. So at this time, I will take a short break and we will be right back. Thank you for tuning in. Please don't go. We'll be right back. Hello, everybody. Welcome back um, to this Massa Washington show. We had to take a short break. I started having dry mouth and I needed to get some water. Thank you very much. So, I would like to expand a little bit on why it is significant the move that Mr. Cummings and Councillor Gonglo have made with with them insisting that they would like to see the War Crimes Code created, and also why it is important for the recommendations of the TRC to be implemented. So I just pulled up the TRC final report here. Um, this is this is how it looks. So I will just read quickly from page 257. So here we have the violations of human rights that took place, the number of violations that victims that were reported by victims of the war. So we'll go according to counties. So in Montserrat County, we had 14,980 victims who provided the statement about what happened to them, their families, and their communities. And in Montserrat County alone, 22,094 violations, gross violations of human rights were reported. In Bond County, we have 12,548 persons who were given their statements in the story, and 22,175 violations were reported. In Lofa County, 11,296 persons told their stories, and 18,863 gross violations of their rights took place. In Nima County, it was 77,000. It was 7,784, and the gross violations of the human rights of people in Nimba who came to the TRC process was 12,794. Bomi County was 5,970 and 9,840 violations. In Papadu County, 7,285 persons came, and it was the violations they reported was 13,574. Grand Bassa County, we had 6,227 persons who came, and they reported 10,739 violations. In Maikipi County, we had 3,394 persons who provided a statement, and they name 9,354 violations of the human rights against them. In Sando County was 5,706 persons who provided a statement, and the violations against them was 9,266. In Maryland County, it was 3,936 persons, and 6,162 violations were reported. In Grand Crew County was 3,296 persons, and they reported 5,588 violations against them in their communities. In Grand Jude was 4,010 persons, and they reported 6,569 violations against the people in Grand Jude. That is those who came, who engaged the TRC. In River G County, you had 4,030 persons reporting, and they reported 6,839 violations of their human rights that took place during the war. In Riverside County, you had 2,315 persons, and they reported 3,566 gross violations of their human rights. And there were some people who they filled in the statement forms, but they did not want to be known, so they are anonymous. So those people were 781 of them, and the gross violations of the human rights they reported was 1,058. So let me just show you you all briefly. So let me just show you briefly some of the type of violations that people talk about. Arson, meaning that people burn people's homes, they burn their farms, which was their only means of their daily bread, and also the economic activity for the family. Murder, they kill people, and torture. All forms of horrible tortures took place against people. Massacre. Several places we went, people told us stories of how sometimes entire families were rounded up, put into the house, locked the door, and it was set on fire. And so many persons like the Carter Camp massacre, the Lutheran Church massacre, the Tupper Road massacre, the Phoebe massacre. And of course, there was looting. If you were in Liberia, you would know that there was widespread looting all over the place. Then you have abduction as well, where people grab people without their consent and they take them away. Most of the time, they were grabbing people's young children, especially the boys, from, like if they went somewhere or their family was sending them maybe to a market to look for something, or if they were just going home, or if they were just in the neighborhood, if they were unlucky, some fighter or some, rebel commander or whatsoever, they were forcibly abducting people's children from the neighborhood and carrying them to train them on makeshift rebel military bases to be the child soldiers. So that's abduction. And we also had a violation of forced displacement. People forcibly took people from their home, took them from the environment, the natural environment that they knew, and took them to other parts of the country. Some of these places they've never been before, like someone like me. They took me and my family when the rebels entered Sinko Oro. They took all of us who were there and they marched us to the stronghold on Tuparo. And that's where we were. And that joining was a hell of a joining. And so many other people in Liberia experienced similar things. Some people were marched from one village, you know, hundreds of miles to another village. Like they would take people from maybe somewhere in Bond County and they had to walk all the way and come to maybe Bomi County under strenuous conditions. And then, of course, you had rape. They were raping people. Rape was used as an instrument of the war against women. It was also used to destroy the family and destroy the manhood because, you know, families were standing online or trying to leave from one area of the place to another for safety. And if they ran into the rebel fighters and, whatever was happening with that person that day, the woman was easily raped in the presence of her husband and her children. Sometimes they force young boys to follow their mothers, and sometimes they force men to follow their daughters. And when they refused, they were killed. And then, of course, sexual abuse. And in the middle of the war, they were doing ritualistic killing. They were, killing people for ritual purposes because they thought they needed human parts to be strong to win the war. So yeah, ritualistic killings were going on too during the war. And people were also engaging in cannibalism, eating other people. We heard hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of stories where people were actually eating people. I'm not going to gross you out here on this video, so I will not go into detail. But yes, cannibalism was also one of the gross violations of human rights that took place during the war in Liberia. And of course, you had destruction of property. You had people destroy people's homes. If they if the person who was fighting the rebel war, if that person was your neighbor, and maybe you had a neighbor who dispute before, maybe about the yard or boundaries or so, and that person was fighting, they didn't protect you, they destroyed people's property. Yeah. And then of course I spoke about, indirectly spoke about, the forced recruitment of child soldiers. They were snatching people's kids from wherever they saw them and taking them away from their families, forcibly training them as soldiers, boys as young as 9, 10, 11 years old. I saw some of them with my own eyes when I was working as a journalist. So, of course, economic crimes, there were those of them who were, especially in the greater Liberia area where they have the, like the natural, you know, extractive resources, they were felling people's farms. They were harvesting people's farm, people's rubber farm and stuff, and selling it across the border to maybe Guinea or the Ivory Coast or so. People didn't give you permission, so that's economic crimes. And they looted the country and took the loot across the border to other countries, to Guinea and the Ivory Coast. That's economic crimes. So I just wanted to give a little background on why it is extremely relevant and important, the move that Mr. Cummings and Councillor Gonglo has made, insisting that the support will be predicated upon the commitment from whoever they would decide to support, to ensure that that person will, when they get there, they will implement the recommendations of the TRC, especially the accountability recommendation rather, that is calling for a war crimes code for Liberia. That's why someone like me, who's been advocating for the recommendations for a long time and who's been a strong proponent of a war crimes code for Liberia, I'm excited about this, and I hope Mr. Cummings will be able to get a commitment from whoever that person will be, that he will throw his weight behind and he will support in the runoff elections. And I hope that person will be a decent enough and gentleman enough to keep his word when he gets there. I hope he will be serious enough and respectable enough to keep his word, keep his promise when he become president. If it's President Weah, I hope he will do that when he retains his seat. If it's former Vice President Joseph Boyka, I hope he will implement the recommendations of the TRC, especially the War Crimes Court when he gets there. So at this time, it is a short, I'm not going my entire 1 hour because I have some very important family matters that I'm going to be attending to. Actually, I should have started at 8:30, it's 8:34. So this is a short video. I will stop here for now. The next video, that is before the end of the week, hopefully we will go in depth into other issues, other burning and relevant issues that we will be looking at. I would like to disclose that I do not own any copyrights to any of the images you've seen today, the pictures, the script. I own no copyrights to them. I would also like to thank you for watching wherever you're watching from. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next couple of days. Please continue to leave your comments. Please feel free to respectfully, of course, express what you think of our efforts. And also, please continue to make some suggestions as to how you think we can improve in terms of content, but also in terms of the technology. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in a few days. Thank you. Have a good night and happy start of the week, and have a great week. Thank you. Bye bye.